Chapter 2: The Collector's Shadow. While the raucous applause from Alexander's spellbinding performance still echoed through the enchanter's circus, a far more sinister presence lurked in the shadows beyond the bright lights of the big top. In the dimly lit streets of the surrounding town, a solitary figure made his way through the winding alleys, his footsteps muffled by the distant sounds of the carnival. This was the Collector, a man whose very name struck fear into the hearts of those who knew of his dark obsession. His sharp features were etched with an intense, unwavering focus, his piercing gaze scanning the buildings and alleyways as if searching for some elusive prize. The Collector's path eventually led him to a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of the town, its weathered facade concealing a hidden chamber deep beneath the crumbling structure. Descending a narrow staircase, he entered a cavernous room filled with an eclectic array of artifacts and relics, a veritable trove of the arcane and the extraordinary. This was the Collector's domain, a repository of the strange and the mystical, gathered from the far corners of the world. But his gaze was not drawn to the countless curiosities that lined the shelves. Instead, it fixed upon a single, pulsating object that sat at the center of the chamber, a glowing orb that seemed to radiate a palpable energy. The Collector approached the orb reverently, his long fingers tracing its surface as a twisted smile spread across his lips. "At last," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, "the key to unlocking the true power of the Enchanter's Circus." For years, the Collector had been obsessed with the legendary feats of Alexander the Enchanter, his insatiable desire to possess the illusionist's abilities, driving him to amass a vast collection of arcane artifacts and relics. But this orb, this pulsing, otherworldly object, was the missing piece, the link that would allow him to harness the raw magic that flowed through the very heart of the Enchanter's Circus. With a sense of growing anticipation, the Collector began to meticulously prepare his plan, his nimble fingers activating a series of intricate mechanisms that surrounded the glowing orb. Lights flickered, gears whirred, and the air crackled with an undefinable energy as the Collector's machinations took shape. "Soon, the Enchanter's power will be mine," he murmured, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous obsession. "And the circus will be transformed into an instrument of my own design." Back at the Enchanter's Circus, Sophia's mind raced as she tried to make sense of the disturbing encounter she had witnessed. The cloaked figure's words, something about harnessing the Enchanter's power, filled her with a growing sense of unease. What could he possibly want with Alexander's abilities, and how did it threaten the very foundation of the circus she had come to love? Pacing the confines of her dressing room, Sophia struggled to find the right moment to share her discovery with Alexander. She knew that disrupting his performance would be a grave breach of protocol, one that could potentially jeopardize the delicate balance of the circus and the trust that the audience placed in the Enchanter's spellbinding feats. Yet, the weight of her knowledge weighed heavily upon her. Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that the mysterious figure's sinister plans posed a grave danger, not just to the circus, but to Alexander himself. She had to find a way to warn him, to somehow find the courage to interrupt the show and share what she had witnessed. As the thunderous applause from Alexander's finale faded, Sophia took deep breath and steeled her resolve. Slipping out of her dressing room, she made her way backstage, her heart pounding with each step. She knew she was about to do something that could very well change the course of the Enchanter's Circus forever. Approaching the curtain that separated the stage from the backstage area, Sophia could see Alexander surrounded by a swarm of admirers, graciously accepting their accolades. Taking a steadying breath, she stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as she gently tugged on the illusionist's sleeve. "Alexander," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to speak with you. It's urgent." The Enchanter turned, his brow furrowing as he caught the note of urgency in Sophia's tone. Excusing himself from the crowd, he led her to a secluded corner, his dark eyes filled with concern. "What is it, my dear?" he asked, his baritone voice laced with a hint of worry. "You look as though you've seen a ghost." Sophia quickly recounted her encounter with the cloaked figure, her words tumbling out in a rush as she described the disturbing conversation she had overheard. Alexander's expression grew increasingly grave as she spoke, his lips pressed into a thin line. "The collector," he murmured, the name rolling off his tongue with a palpable weight. I had feared this day would come. Sophia's eyes widened in alarm. "You know this man, and what does he want with the circus?" Alexander's gaze grew distant, as if he were lost in the depths of a painful memory. "The collector is a dangerous and obsessive individual, driven by a relentless desire to possess the extraordinary. He has been fixated on the enchanter's circus and my powers for years, driven by a belief that he can harness the magic that flows through this place." He paused, his hand unconsciously drifting to the pocket where he kept his prized pocket watch, a family heirloom that had been passed down through generations of enchanters. I had hoped that the circus's anonymity and the shroud of mystery that surrounds it would be enough to deter him, but it seems that my efforts have been in vain. Sophia's heart sank as the gravity of the situation dawned on her. What will he do? How can we stop him? Alexander's eyes met hers, a steely resolve burning within their depths. "We must act quickly, Sophia. The collector's ambitions pose a grave threat, not just to the circus, but to the very magic that gives it life. We cannot allow him to succeed, no matter the cost." Placing a reassuring hand on the young woman's shoulder, the enchanter's expression hardened with determination. "Gather the rest of the performers. We have much to discuss, and time is of the essence." As Sophia hurried off to summon the troupe, Alexander's gaze drifted towards the bright lights of the big top, his thoughts consumed by the looming battle that lay ahead. The collector's shadow had fallen upon the enchanter's circus, and the enchanter himself would have to draw upon every ounce of his power and cunning to protect the wonder and enchantment that defined his life's work.